It's important to note that when we're talking about um, what now for world universities, a lot of people are going to be making different decisions based on very particular aspects of their family. This is the same or very similar to when you were all applying to universities, and now after you've applied and gotten your acceptances, your conditional offers, um, now the decision point comes, and the decision point is very, very individual. Um, Please remember that issues of fee status based on your passport are very unique to the family. Also, issues of financing, which can very much depend on which passports the family has, can really change the decision point about where you are going to go in the end. And now that we have the coronavirus global pandemic, it will also influence perhaps your decision. Remember, we have the same planet, but maybe in different worlds. We're all in our own homes right now with lots of uncertainty. So just remember that your own pathway is unique and is uniquely yours. So if you're thinking that this webinar maybe give you some earth-shattering news about your particular university program, sorry to disappoint you, but that specific information is going to be emailed directly to you. So you actually might have more specific info uh, than we do about your specific program already because you received an email. The updates are going to continue to come in. This is just the first time I'm sending out a update webinar. So for the UK update, there's a couple of important news items if you haven't already heard these. One of them is that there is an updated deadline for applicants to reply if they receive decisions from all their choices by the 31st of March. Be sure to check your UCAS track to see what date you have to reply by. They have now changed the dates for UCAS, so please do pay attention. The deadline for universities and colleges to make decisions and reply to applicants received by January 15th is now May 20th. So that means that universities can go all the way to May 20th before they give you a decision. Please definitely check your UCAS track to ensure what your particular deadline is. These are just new regulatory guidelines for universities and for applicants. The IB has come out, as you guys know, and said that they are going to give scores this year. We're not really exactly sure about the specifics about how those scores are going to be generated. The IB just knows that we're not going to do it the way we've done it in the past. This is going to be a completely new. If you've heard that GCSEs and A levels have been canceled, that means that UK universities are going to really have to take a look at what qualifications from around the world have been canceled and which qualifications are still running. So it's important to note that while UK universities are going to be empathetic to the exam cycle, the difference in exam cycle that the IB is having, they have stated that conditional offers that have been given are going to remain. Now, that's not to say that they can't change an offer, but at the moment, because of all the uncertainty in the UK with A levels being canceled, the Ministry of Education in the UK has called for a 2-week timeout. So right now we're in a 2-week timeout period where UK universities cannot change the offers of students, and likely UK universities also won't give out offers during this 2-week time period. So if you don't get any responses from universities in terms of offers and you're still waiting for one or two or three of your schools to give you an offer, don't worry. During this 2-week period, there will definitely be a pause while UK universities and the Ministry of Education in the UK discuss what it is they're going to do for students who have had their exams canceled, and also what they're going to do to evaluate students who've had their exams altered, as the students at NITO will have their exams altered with the IB. So right now in the UK, there's a couple official things coming out. Change of the response time for universities, it's gotten longer. Time of the response time for students, it's gotten longer. Make sure you choose your track, you check your track to ensure that you know what your response deadlines are. There's now been a 2-week timeout called for giving offers or changing offers. So just make note for my UK applicants out there. So British universities, generally speaking, are very much together. It's a centralized system in the UK through UCAS largely. So the UCAS system and the British universities, while British universities are independent, they do act very much as one through the UCAS system and the Ministry of Education. So that means likely what one British university does, most British universities are going to do when it comes to how they evaluate your altered IB qualification. I would say in this webinar, the UK is the example of the most cohesive system. That means the most together, the most acting as one. While you should always make sure that your particular program at a university knows your particular situation and that you're in communication with that program, the UK university system is very much an interdependent system, and they all use UCAS. They listen more or less to the Ministry of Education in the UK, and they will all likely go in a similar direction when it comes to what it means for you going to the UK come September. So you also should make sure that you're communicating directly with your universities and the university program particularly. So not just, for example, the University of Nottingham, but make sure that you're connecting with your program like engineering at Nottingham for more information. Our Canada update, we're in the first layer here of regional differences between universities. While Canada does have one centralized Ministry of Education for universities, the university system is based on the provinces. So Canada is a little less centralized than the UK. What we're seeing from Canada come out is a lot of similar language to the US. Because Canada is looking for a range of grades in your exam results that are close to your predicted grades, but not exact offers, not exact conditional offers, they have a little bit more flexibility with the IB and what points you actually receive rather than the UK. The UK has a real hard line in their qualifications. So if you don't get the entry qualifications, it means you're not accepted to that university. Where in Canada, you have been accepted to a university. There are some conditions with that acceptance, but the language we see coming out of Canada right now is don't worry. We're committed to ensuring that disruptions outside students' control, altering IB exam period, will not negatively impact those students' enrollment at university. We're not really 100% sure at this point, of course, what this means, and particularly what it means for example, engineering at UBC or commerce at Toronto. But we do know that generally speaking, the universities are going to be a bit more flexible here when it comes with your acceptances and being in the range of what your grades for predicted grades were. Canada's looking for you to be in the range, which usually means no more than 3 points below your predicted. Sometimes more than that, but just really trying to focus on that 3 points uh, below maximum floor for your IB. We don't know how that rule is going to be influenced this year. However, we're having a lot of language about being don't worry, being understanding about your qualifications. But it's different in Canada, remember, because Canada has a 4 year system. So it's not like the UK or some other EU systems that would require qualifications to even go to university. In Canada, they are looking for your IB to match your predicted grades and for your final transcript grades to be consistent with your other grades you received in first semester 12th grade and also in 11th grade. Info Canada is really all about the university. Many universities and university programs will have the same policies, but particularly taking a look at subjects like engineering or like commerce that may still have more strict entry requirements. They may hold on to those stricter entry requirements. Just pay particularly close attention, and all the universities' COVID-19 web pages, because they all have them. These are just some examples of universities that have information already on their websites, but many Canadian universities already have some policies that sound very similar to the ones you saw for University of Toronto and UBC. So ensure that you're communicating with your department at the university, like the School of Arts, for example, at the University of Calgary, Sciences at McGill, for example. Be close contact with your program department. Remember, the university policy is one thing, but really what governs whether or not you are going to attend that school based on your qualifications is the department.
It's important to note that Australian and New Zealand passport holders have a very different process. Your process is going to be analyzed over time because at the moment, March entry for 2021 is still being analyzed by the Australian Ministry of Education. Stay tuned. Most of the following information is about international passport holders.
Okay, Australia update. The big news from Australia is that kids who are thinking of going in July, you just really need to be in close contact with those new student admissions programs, the orientation programs, student housing, particularly when it comes to student housing. Because this has been most affected by COVID-19 around the world. Dorms have been closed. And Australia, going in for the July entry date, they're really the first ones in the world that are going to open this year. And we don't know what that entry date is actually going to be. So be sure to check if you were thinking of going to Australia or planning on going to Australia in July, be sure to check out whether or not your school will be open in July. Right now, universities are looking at that, altering dates in Australia as I speak right now. So be sure to check up on the study dates. You see here, they both have University of Melbourne and University of Sydney, which represent really the most amount of applicants at NITO, although of course we have students applying to other schools, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, UQ, and all of these websites. The most important thing at the moment to make sure that you've done, especially for those students who've already received their SAT score for a Australian university, is the study dates. When are they going to open campus? Now, it's important also to note that Australia is a strict qualifications-based country. So that means they're just like the UK. They will likely not alter their entry requirements. If you were going to use the IB in order to get into Melbourne, for example, and you don't get the required entry score for this year, Melbourne likely will not accept you with below the qualification entry for this year. They will likely not accept you. So it's important that you keep working hard and do your best to achieve any of the scores for Australia. Now, in the future, they may come out with more language like Canada, but at the moment, they're really sticking to their entry qualification. And as always, when you're going to university, always buy flexi tickets.
Australian passport holders, please remember that you can get more information at your territory websites. Remember, you apply to your centralized territory website.
So where can I get more information? University websites and university contacts you met at NITO. G8 have come. These are the top 8 universities most of our students apply to. However, of course, there are other universities that also have visited NITO that we have contacts for them. Please do reach out to the university contacts for Australian universities, and also asking those new student orientation programs if the dates of new student orientation are also changing. That's important. Okay, so as I'm moving along here through the presentation, you'll see I started with the UK in terms of the most centralized university system, and I've started to move farther and farther away from that, with Canada being more provincial, Australia also having its territories, which can have different regulations. Now, in the Netherlands, we are down to probably every program at this point. The Dutch Ministry of Education just canceled centralized exams in the country. So now each school is going to have to give their own type of assessment. It's very important that you're in communication with your program. So not the University of Amsterdam, but Amsterdam University College, for example. We're not talking about the University of Twente. We're talking about mechanical engineering at Twente. It's been important all along for Dutch applicants to make sure they're communicating with their program rather than their university. But now it's especially important because each program will probably have a very different way that they're going to interpret this whole altered IB. And remember, the Netherlands is a strict qualifications country, meaning that you have to have a IB diploma or equivalent in order to be admitted to a Dutch university. Everyone who's applied to Dutch university with a full IB has the condition that they must receive an IB diploma. There are usually some other conditions there with university colleges or Dutch programs, whether or not those either math grades usually, sometimes it can be English grades that are part of your conditional offer for the Netherlands. Whether or not those are going to stay is up to each individual program, so please be in contact with them. So the Dutch universities are going to take a little bit of time in order to figure this out, but it's going to be very unique to program rather than the entire university system. A great example is students usually think that Rotterdam School of Management is its own university. It is not. It is part of Erasmus University. If someone says, Rotterdam School of Management just gave me an email, that doesn't mean anything for Erasmus University College students, EUC. So I know it can be confusing, but just as I explained to you, Dutch applicants all along, remember, it's not your university, it is your program that dictates what it is you're going to have to do in order for you to make your conditions of attending that university. Remember, Dutch university right now requires most students, large majority of students, Their condition is to get an IB diploma, and some students even have some subject-specific requirements for the IB. These are particular for each student and very unique. Every university right now has a COVID page. Most of these university COVID pages, however, are for their own students. Very important, particularly when it comes to the Netherlands. It is a small country right now battling the virus. The Netherlands, because it's such a small country, can have particular problems or issues. We'll just have to see how that sorts itself out. When you compare the Netherlands and their university system to Canada or the UK or Australia, remember the Netherlands is much smaller. Those other countries are huge, and they may need to make choices. The Netherlands may need to make choices that can influence the university system and your decision to go there or not. So on these university web pages right now for COVID-19, they all say contact your program for more information. So they're even saying right now, we're not publicizing information on the website about programs. You're going to have to contact your program yourself. So hopefully most of you have gotten emails from your programs, and if not, don't worry. The Netherlands right now is just beginning to come to a realization that they can't have nationalized exams this year, and the universities are going to have to see what they will do for this new IB situation. University systems around the world that our students will be applying to. USA-like schools, this is like IE, for example, in Spain. Other EU schools, for example, either technical universities or schools like Bocconi in Italy, and other parts of Asia, Korea, Hong Kong, Japan. It's important to note that most of those universities and programs that our students apply to across those countries are usually very program specific. So it's important to note that USA-like schools like IE versus Jacobs University Bremen or John Cabot University Rome, those types of schools will have very different ways that they're going to deal with your exam results and final grades. Also, hospitality schools will have their own way that they look at things. If we think of the UK as being a system that is most cohesive, that means most similar in how the university is going to react. This category, I would say, is probably the most unique to program. But all universities are trying to solve this problem. They want students to come, and they really would like to fill all of their seats this year, which they are right now finding to be very difficult. So make sure that you're in close contact with your program at these world universities, and thinking of particularly with entry dates as we get closer to the entry dates, which means like student orientation, when you're going to go, end of August, September, and even first week in October. If they're changing their student orientation dates, they also will likely change relatively quickly because they are university programs and can react to the news. It's important to keep up with them and the representatives of those programs to ensure that you have the most up-to-date information, particularly when it comes to qualification-strict countries in the EU. Those programs may or may not change their entry requirements. Asian universities, generally speaking, are not qualifications-based programs. That means that they're much more like the US. They have a wide variety of entrance criteria, also like USA-like schools. They have more flexibility and freedom than some EU countries to alter what they expect from you. But I think it's much more important on the student side to be aware of what is happening in those countries right now, what is happening in Madrid, what is happening in Milan or Rome, what is happening right now in Japan. It's important to keep up on the news of the day because likely universities will react to that news, whatever it is. Do keep in touch with the particular university programs for everyone on this webinar, whether you're applying to the UK or Korea or anything in between. The most important thing to remember is every school, every program, different story. So don't hear it from your friends and think, oh, that's good for me. Make sure you do your own research on your own program within your own university that is specific to your family, to your passport, to your situation. And remember, get it from a trusted source. So your information is from a trusted source. It can be very difficult with all the news coming out about COVID-19, everything going on right now. Your trusted source for information is, did you find it on a university website? Did you get it in writing from a representative of your program? If those two things are a no, then you automatically have to be suspicious of your source. Some of the information I even got for this webinar was off newspapers. Even though those are respected newspapers, you don't know if tomorrow that information could be updated, could be changed. So really, I'm taking in terms of trusted sources here. What does that mean? That means, did you get it from the university website or did you get it from an email from the program representative? If you didn't get it from one of those two sources, it doesn't mean it's not true. It just means that it may not be true for you. And even if you did see it on a university website or you were emailed it by a representative, please do make sure and be cautious with that information. Information right now is changing very rapidly. Probably even by the time I post this and you watch it, some of the information in this might have already changed. So please do note, as we go along towards making a decision point, and all of you will likely have to make a decision about which university or universities you are going to try and go for with either conditional offers, or maybe some of you are choosing universities where you don't have as strict conditions. It's hard right now to try to make decisions based on what you think the COVID-19 situation in that country will be come August, September, or even October. The best you can do is try at the moment to keep your options open. Many universities right now are changing the deadlines that students have to decide. If you've already made your choice, you know where you're going, don't let the COVID-19 alter your path if it doesn't feel like it needs to be altered. If your family is still with you and in agreement, you're all in agreement about where you want to go, just make sure you get flexi tickets for your university orientation, because we don't know what could happen in the future. So what more can I do right now? Most importantly, don't ever give up. So regardless of what's happening, what you can't control, you need to let go of. You do have control over what you do right now in your classes. You need to keep working. I know you're almost there. You're almost to the end of your 12th grade year, but you have another mountain to climb, your last one here, and put one foot in front of the other, and climb this last mountain that you have. We thought it was going to be different. A lot of the end of the year celebrations and a lot of your activities have been canceled, and that's so disappointing. And I have so much empathy for you all with what you're going through right now. Who through distance learning took on the challenge and overcame, and who kind of just let this opportunity pass. And I do call it an opportunity because, as I've said all along for university counseling, bad in the news is good for you. There's a lot of opportunities right now in the world university system. We have a lot of students with a lot of great options. So just don't give up. You're going to make it. One way or another, this year will come to an end and we will all overcome, because the difference between who you are and who you want to be is what you do right now. And the last thing you can do is just breathe. Don't give up.